the welfare system. I mean, could you speak to that a little more?
Are you speaking specifically about government welfare?
Right, exactly,
And
exactly.
helping and charities kind of doing more within this sphere
Right,
of
which
poverty?
is more effective, at least in Governor Romney's view.
See, government at its basis is built on bureaucracy. Okay, and it's built on that way for several reasons. One, the founders of our great nation wanted to make everything slow in process, so that way no one could be too rash in their decisions. Now, unfortunately, it has byproducts such as the welfare system. If you want to help one specific poverty group, whatever, it has to go through a long bureaucracy, and being such, we can't adequately help these people immediately. So if you give money to charities, they're a third party, NGO or nonprofit organization,
Right.
which can work much faster in helping to keep these people alive, keep these people, in the job market, if you will, if they're looking for jobs, just provide the basic needs for these people. And I think that the welfare program does not, obviously it doesn't do it adequately. But that's just one of the byproducts of our government and kind of the bureaucracy involved.
And just a quick aside based on that, we're obviously all college students here
Right.
at Pepperdine University, and I think if you look around, you can see a greater focus among college students on things like nonprofits, and you see that that's
Definitely.
becoming a big deal
Definitely.
to our generation, and more college students are going out of college thinking, what nonprofit can I work at, as opposed to what big business can I work at? And that's just, it seems to be a shift in the mindset of
Definitely.
America's youth, hopefully in a good way.
Definitely. I mean, any opportunity you can get to help those in lower socioeconomical classes, or just help those in need. I mean, you should definitely take advantage of their human beings, and they require the necessities and the right to life just as we do. And so we should definitely be helping them.
And since we're talking about human beings and helping out people who have just as many rights as we do, why don't we talk just a little bit about the borders?
Okay.
You had mentioned that when we talked before the show about America's borders, and obviously when we talk about America's borders, we're thinking Canada, keeping
Right,
those
obviously,
Canadians,
yes.
keeping
Those
those
illegal
Canadians,
Canadians
got to
out.
keep them out.
dang Canadians out of this country. But no, what were the things that you wanted to focus on in terms of the borders?
Well, I'm from Arizona,
Yes.
and so I see border issues dealing primarily with the cartels, coming across our country, bringing drugs. Illegal immigration is a big topic within my state, and I think nationally it's kind of been brushed under the rug because people don't really see it as a big deal, or they go, those crazy Arizonans, what are they talking about? But it's a huge issue. There are people being killed on the Arizona border, as well as the Texas border, as well as the California border, due to these illegal activities and due to the unsecured border. And the federal government, if you guys remember a few weeks ago, Governor Brewer went up to the Congress and asked for more, I believe it was Congress, I don't know specifically, but asked for federal troops and asked for federal funding to help secure our border. And there was a big discourse between the administration, the executive administration, and my governor about this issue, and nothing primarily got done. And so I think one of the biggest issues, I mean, the war on the border is huge. There are ranchers going about their daily lives who have to carry AK-47s with them because they're scared that they're going to be shot that day. And basically the national government has said, well, that's not a primary issue for us. We're not necessarily concerned with you. And so we're not going to give you federal funding. We're not going to provide the National Guard more troops to come secure our border. One of the primary agents that has been working to help secure our border within Arizona is Sheriff Babu. And Babu has, I think the percentage is like a 94%, 96% secure border since he's gone in. He's the sheriff of Pinal County currently, and he's currently running for Congress. And it's just a huge deal. And then tacked onto that, you have the ATF's blunder of Project Fast and Furious,
Right.
which provided AK-47s, MAC-10s, a bunch of firearms to the drug cartels. And they stated that it was to track them, as federal agencies usually do. They'll tag money for
Right.
bank robbers and stuff. But they made a problem in that experiment is that they didn't track the weapons.
That seems like a bit of a flaw.
It seems like a very bad idea.
Oh boy.
And so those weapons were then turned against us and used to kill. There was a sheriff deputy that was killed, a border agent that was killed with those weapons, and it was border agent. Let me correct myself. That was killed using those weapons, and obviously this violates numerous treaties with Mexico because we gave Mexico's probably #1 adversary within their own country weapons.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole border issue. It's also an internal national issue because there's people to blame. There's people that need to be judged on that issue in the ATF, Eric Holder and the like. And Sheriff Babiou, running for Congress, has been the primary agent against those people in the ATF and correcting the wrongs that have been done.
Now, what are Mitt Romney's stances on sealing up the border?
Definitely, he's all for securing the border. He's all for contending with one of our greatest foreign allies on that border issue, Mexico. Yeah. Mexico is our friend. Is there corruption in Mexico? Yes. And Mitt Romney is all for contending with Mexico to help secure that border for both sides. Because really, when you get down to it, illegal immigration is a symptom of a cause. And that cause is poor economy and drug cartels.
Yeah.
And so in order to adequately fix that problem, we have to work with both the Mexican government like we've been doing, and I think we should be doing a lot more, and with better foreign relations, and with our southern states to secure the border and create a hospitable environment, just like in the United States, for those individuals that are coming illegally to have better lives in Mexico and in South America.
I feel like there's a... Continue to...
Oh, yeah. And Brian, why do you think, or why do folks in the Romney campaign believe the border's not getting enough attention right now? Well,
I'll just say this: I can't speak for the Romney campaign on that issue because I don't speak for the Romney campaign myself. I just
speak for yourself.
Personally, my own personal view.
Absolutely.
So, but I mean, I personally think, for me at least, it's obvious. I mean, the border's not secure because there's people within the United States. There's ranchers being killed. I mean, if you were at your house and you had a fence, and someone would come in and say you're a rancher and kill your sheep every day, you're not going to say that fence is secure.
But what I mean is, why do you think President Obama and his administration maybe haven't placed as much emphasis on securing our borders as, kind of carrying out our global wars, when you could argue that maybe there's a war going on right here with local drug cartels?
Right. I think really they want to stay away from the issue, because if they were to commit troops to it, then they would have an action, and that way that'd be something for his constituents in the 2012 election to hold against him, saying you put money towards
just adding another critique.
Adding another critique to his presidential campaign. And so I think personally that's why they haven't done anything, because they don't want that on their record.
Right.
Whether they would make that decision or would not make that decision is not the point. The point is not making the decision is a decision within itself, so that way they can just keep on with that clean record.
Right.
And so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one other big issue in terms of these upcoming presidential elections, and the border covers a little bit of it, but like you talked about, our connection to Mexico and to working with Mexico's government to establish a better life there. But what is Mitt Romney's experience in terms of foreign policy in dealing with, say, these Middle Eastern countries that have a lot of issues coming up?
Iran,
especially
Syria.
Iran, Iran is huge issue.
And also with things going on in North Korea right now.
Yes.
Also are also very important. But what is the experience that he has in terms of foreign policy that he would take with him into office?
Well, in order to understand Governor Romney's experience in foreign policy, you have to go back to the very beginning. The Mormon mission in France, he was at that Mormon mission, as most Mormons go on missions, and the president of that mission was actually killed in a car accident. And Governor Romney at the time, a young man, stepped up and led that mission for, I don't know how long, I believe it was a year or so, or a little bit longer, and led that mission with great success. And so from the very beginning, he has foreign policy experience in dealing with foreign governments and stuff, and kind of dealing with managing people within foreign countries. If you look at at his past experience within other countries, he has a lot of friends in the government. He's very pliable when it comes to working with other nations and working for a common goal. And I think that will be successful in his presidential campaign. So, yeah. I don't know. Anything else you guys want to... on that issue specifically?
Really, it's just making sure we know what separates him from these other candidates who are stepping up.
Right.
What are the real differences? Because I think a lot of times people try so hard not to separate themselves that the lines really get blurred.
I understand that.
So what are these differences that set him apart?
America is great. It's one of his biggest campaign slogans he has. You know what I mean? And there's so often in modern times you see kind of emergence of a mentality that, you know, the United States should not be the greatest country on the world. You know, we should all kind of be the same and
let's all love each other.
Let's all love each other. Yeah, that's great. I don't believe that. I believe that if you're a president of a country, if you're a congressman or a senator, you should contend for your country to be the best country within the world. And does that mean being hostile to other countries? Absolutely not. But it should have the best economy, the best defense, and it should have the best relations with other countries. Governor Romney, I believe, supports that in saying, you know, the United States must be great again. And I still believe we're a great country. I still believe we're the greatest country in our morals and our beliefs.
But I think it'd be hard to argue that we're as respected now as we were 15 years ago.
Definitely. And if you go to countries like China, who we owe trillions of dollars, if you go to countries in the Middle East, if you go anywhere, in Europe, the UK, you know, the United States is kind of looked down upon right now. And that was not the case 100 years ago, you know, during World War II, when we liberated these people from Nazi regime, from enslavement, encampment, and from kind of the tyrannical rule of the Nazi Party, you know, and what was it that brought us to that point? It was our morals and our belief system. It wasn't necessarily our economy.
And why the resentment now? You see it in the Middle East, and obviously you could make the argument that some see us as liberators, others as occupiers. You know, and you look back 60 years ago, the Marshall Plan, which was so successful in rebuilding Europe and Japan. Why do you think the animosity has sprung up again? You know, do you think it's a particular policy, the current administration, the Bush administration, or?
I think that's the way societies go sometimes, is that if you have a citadel at the top, like we were in post-World War II, I mean, we were a great industrial nation. We had people producing cars, we had basically the big industrial revolution, the second one at least, and all these other countries have to contend with that, as well as, I mean, we started wars mainly to liberate the Iraqi people.
Right. We
had to liberate the Afghani people from the tyrannical rule of the Taliban and their tribal regime, and people kind of always want to blame someone, and so they're blaming the United States. Now, is that a full encompass of why this hostility shifted? Absolutely not. I think the United States has gotten a bad rap by other countries strictly because we can. You know what I mean? But I think that's the way societies go sometimes. Right, and yeah. I think the weakening of our economy and the weakening of our national defense and kind of the pitting of the United States nationally and within the United States by administration and by other key pundits doesn't help for a great America. If you want to have a great nation and you want to be at the top and you want to be recognized as the top, then you have to market yourself as being at the top. And so doing anything less than that just destroys us from the inside.
Right. And obviously there are a lot more issues to cover, and it's impossible to cover within a 1 hour show.
Definitely.
Everything that we would want to about any particular candidate. But hopefully our listeners were a little bit more enlightened or had a few questions answered about this upcoming nomination for the Republicans. And I'd like to thank Brian for coming on and talking about this.
Mitchell, thank you for having me. Dino, always a pleasure.
And
thank
Dino,
you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming on to be the fill-in co-host this week.
But of course.
With the absence of Jeannie.
Happy to do it.
But we are going to continue on with our show playing another song. It is called Fortunate Son